All right, we're here. It's the Fit for Radio podcast. I'm your host, Drew Titeman, inside of the Stafford Hills Club. Here, a beautiful facility, a place that I work out and I work, which you can do too. They do have these amazing suites here, great classes. My wife uses it, the whole deal. Break it down another time. Right now, I'm really excited to have a guy I've known for almost 30 years now, a man that I can honestly say died and came back to life. His name is Nick Magistrale. Welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks for having me, Drew. It's an honor to be here.
It's so great to have you. We grew up in the same, I wouldn't say small town, but a protected town, a place we called the Bubble, Lake Oswego, Oregon. And if you're from another part of the country, you don't know what that is. It's a suburb of Portland. It's the only lake within striking distance of the city, and it's a place we called the Bubble because it was safe and tight-knit groups. People were close, almost too close. Parents get to talking. You can't hide much. Right. But it, as an adult, having moved back to the very same city after all the years living away, I got to say it's a comforting place. It's a nice place, and that's where I met you, Nick. We had a strange situation. You went to one side of the Lakes High School, Lake Oswego High School, and I went to the other side, Lake Ridge High School, right. Which I think that most people in the city would agree that we were the poor man's version of your school. The higher end stuff, the Blazers, the things like that, they might choose to live on that side of the lake. I will say that bar has been evened a little bit as they've been just crunching, munching every small house in the town, and now it's more comparable. But actually, when I was a freshman, I spent a little time in a summer school. After some bad decisions, I met a friend of yours who actually ended up introducing me to you guys and the whole group of Lake Oswego High School guys, and we all hit it off great, ended up becoming friends. We'd party across the lake. Whatever big house the parents were out of town, that's where we were. Yeah. And we had a lot of fun. Those days, really, it was just about sports, a little bit of partying, hanging with buddies, driving to the next payphone, paging people, finding the party. You remember these days.
It was, definitely carefree, good time. Always thinking about getting to the next party, the next hangout, spending time with all of us together pretty much.
And there were so many of those great times. And the first I kind of heard of you was, you were introduced to me by these mutual friends, but I was also notified that you were a great athlete, that you were a football guy, that football was in your future. And I feel like everyone kind of had a general consensus on that. And hung out with a handful of good football players, but you were definitely at a young age on kind of that up and coming swing. Sure. Football, sports, pretty important to you growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I just grew up playing football, Pop Warner, and then, going to summer camps. And my older brother, 2 years older, Mason, we would always go to all the practices, like the ones that were mandatory, not mandatory, got real involved with team sports. And then, once I got to like a middle school age, I just felt like, kind of had a gift and needed to focus on it, and thought that was my path to success. It just came to me.
It sure felt like your destiny. Now, in those early days of partying and hanging out, and it was all very carefree, though. When some people hear partying, they think like, oh, they were off the deep end, and it was hard drugs, and it was all this stuff. And the late 90s, mid to late 90s, were more of in this town, because I've heard stories from the 80s where it got pretty raw. Yeah. But it calmed down there for a while, and I actually, in high school, I feel like once I got to college, I saw how tame we actually were, and that our parents probably could have relaxed a little bit. But I also did plenty of things to make them concerned. Now, one of those concerning things is kind of a precursor to the story we're going to get into, because while you grew up very gifted in sports and athletics, some things happen that change your path. Now, ahead of that, the day before the story that we're talking about, I had gone to a party on the Lake Ridge side over with the rest of us poors. And actually, it wasn't a poor house at all. It was a big old mansion on top of a hill on the other side of a field of like tall sage grass, which I didn't pay much mind to at first, but it wasn't 10 minutes into the party. It wasn't even dark yet. And the cops came. Now, if you're from this small town or like suburb or ones like it, where the police really are lucky in the fact that there isn't a lot of high crime, there isn't a lot of murders and crazy things along those lines. But what there is are house parties and a chance to deliver a solid number of MIPs. And so on this day, the cops show up, and they show up like they're raiding a cartel house. They're every direction, and they're rolling up on this house. So I do what I always did, was I found somebody slow, and I ran in front of them. And you just go, and you go. And if you get away, it's over. There are no body cams and the surveillance cameras and all. I mean, most people of normal means did not have a cell phone yet. This is early on. Unless you had that Zach Morris, the big dog, you basically didn't have a celly.
No social media.
No, none of it. It's actually a carefree time where you can make lots of mistakes and recover if you can get away. And so I ran up over this hill, and this story has relevance. I come over the hill, and it's a full-blown sting. They really want the MIPs this time. And I'm not joking. There are cops lining all the way down this street called Burgess and all the way across the front so that you can't get out. And so I did the only thing I knew to do, and that was lay down in the grass. And I started to crawl like a varmint. And I just crawled, and for hours until the sun came down, I'm just crawling. And finally, I go to stand up, and a spotlight, boom, just hits me. Like, I've been laying there for hours. And so as soon as I stand up, boom. So I decide to go back down and to crawl some more. And you could just see a little wavering of the grass. And I decided I'm not getting up again. And the crazy thing is I ran into some other crawlers along the way and lost path with them because they didn't agree with my plan and their plan, the whole thing. But this grass is whipping me, and it's getting me all dirty. Like I'm really getting mangy. And I get to the corner of this field after hours and hours, and now we're running into, I'm late to even go home. So like I'm in a gray area. So I crawl out of this field and I jump over like an embankment directly into a blackberry bush and just slice up my legs. And I'm like, dude, this is not good. So I need to meander my way down to the only grocery store in the entire area. There's the only place that there's a payphone. And so I'm kind of like working my way through the shadows. I get to this payphone, and I'm trying to call people on my side of the lake. I got nothing. I mean, because you're paging people, you're doing the whole deal. And so I finally get a hold of one of your guys' buddies on the LO side of the lake, and I explain that I'm a fish out of water. I need some help. I need rescue. I need rescue. And I've got minutes before a cop shows up and be like, there he is. Right. There's that greasy little dude. And so amazingly, a group of your friends come and pick me up, and they're like, well, we're all hanging out at our buddy Max's house. So do you want to come over there? Well, he's my buddy too. So I'm like, sure, let's do that. I can't really go home. I'm kind of in the gray area now. So I show up to that house, and you're there. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing your face, and I think it's important to note for people who don't know you personally is you've always kind of had like this infectious smile, this like presence and happiness. And like when you come in, you'd be like, oh, hey, Drew, or Tiedemann, and it was always, you were always happy to see people, and that rubs off on people, so I have that ingrained in my mind from that night. And so many of your memories are clouded as you get older, and now that I'm in my 40s, I don't have a ton of high school memories. I've got a little haze and a smoke of this happened and that happened. But that night, I remember walking in a room and you're sitting there, and I remember that smile. Now, we all hang out and we party there, and your brother Mason is there, and I'm there, and a ton of friends are there. And in the morning time, I remember I get up and everyone's kind of like, meandering around doing their thing. And two girls that we grew up with come over to the house and they're not happy with me. And I'm like, what's the problem? Like, you need to calm down. Like, you're getting way out of hand. And they're like, your parents are so mad right now. They think you're in a ditch somewhere, drowning in a mud puddle. And they heard you ran from a party. And I'm like, how did they? Like, and as a high school kid, you're like, how do they know? They don't have a cell phone, or a social media. Like, but that's how parents are back then, especially in Lake Oswego, where we grew up, is word of mouth would just go boom, 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 boom. And so they said, you need to come home right now. So I'm like, okay, I should probably go home so I don't get completely destroyed. So I head home, and in that moment, there's still a handful of people at the house. I believe there was a total of 6 people at the house. I left, making it 5. Your brother was still there. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, he leaves as well. Am I correct?
That's correct.
In that?
Yeah, as far as I remember, we everybody had scattered by that point. Everybody was...
It's morning time. It's time to go to the next day. We've already done the party.
Sure.
And so I leave, and you guys are still there. And so this is where the reason why I told the crawling through the dirt is that's the reason that I leave. Otherwise, if I'd just been there, for sure, I'm hanging out. I'm staying until the wheels come off of the party. Yeah. And a lot of times that's day 2. And so I leave, and you guys, what do you guys do after that, after Mason and I left the house?
So there was a group of 4 of us that were left there. And we decided to grab some breakfast and kind of go and run, like do some normal high school, like summer day activities, whatever, to kill time.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by Stafford Hills Club. It is the premier health and wellness center in Portland and was just voted that. And you can see when you come here, they have high-end workout facilities, a saltwater pool that's heated. The steam coming off that in the morning is just second to none. And of course, my wife loves the classes here, and the kids club, so good and so gentle with my little girl who can be a little rowdy. But they're amazing. Check them out, staffordhills.com. And if you like the place like I do, send me a message or leave me a comment, and I'll get you 50% off your initiation at staffordhills.com.
There was non-mandatory football practice later that afternoon that one of the other passengers, the owner of the house, Max, him and I were supposed to be at practice that afternoon. So we kind of made like a little plan to just, maybe go out on the lake. Our buddy had a boat, Max, at his house. So we were going to go back there, but driving and heading back towards Max's house after messing around and having fun, and went down Iron Mountain Boulevard, a road in Lake Oswego where it's kind of windy and there's no houses on either side. And
it's the closest thing to a country road, really, that connects one side of the lake to the other.
Exactly, yeah. We're kind of driving past, and we go through, make it all down the windy part and into the residential area. And we see one of our friends' older brothers walking, and like, to reiterate what you were saying earlier, everybody kind of knew each other. Didn't matter really what class people were in, if they were 4 years above or below or whatever. We all kind of hung out and got together. But so anyway, we pick up the older brother of one of my friends, and we drive him back the opposite direction and take him back to his house in a neighborhood off of Iron Mountain at the beginning. And then turn around and are coming back up Iron Mountain. heading towards Max's house again.
And so now you're back to 4 people in the vehicle.
Right. Just 4. Could have been, like you were saying, could have been possible you were in the car, could have been possible that my brother was in the car, or, any number of people piled in. Mm-hmm. The 4 of us ended up wanting to get back to Max's quickly, and the driver was driving really excessive speeds, probably somewhere around between 90 and 100 miles an hour.
And the speed limit there is 40?
Yeah, 40, and it goes to 25 pretty abruptly around a couple turns. Mm-hmm. And any one of us could have been driving. It's not, it's not like one person made a horrible decision. It's just happened to be the time and place that it happened. But
I think it's safe to say that at that age, we were all driving fast, music cranked,
right.
The whole deal, the windows down, the sunglasses. Yeah. I mean, living like we're big dogs when we're just teenagers.
Exactly. Yeah. And not really thinking of any type of consequences whatsoever, and having kind of that invincible mentality to an extent. Mm-hmm. So we're driving extremely fast, come to a spot where the road kind of curves to the left, and it's a little bit of a blind turn, and go around, and we're hugging the inside of the opposite lane, so kind of crossed over on a one way in each direction, and there's an oncoming car in that lane, and so we swerve and hit the right shoulder, swerve back to the left, and then swerve back to the right again and hit the shoulder, and the tires kind of fold, and
so, gripped it.
Yeah, and we were in a SUV, a really nice, large SUV, which was kind of a new thing for at that time. There weren't a lot of SUVs, and so people didn't have a whole lot of experience handling them and stuff too. So the car kind of, as I said, the wheels folded over, and we flipped and rolled over and launched down a ravine and took out a bunch of trees, kind of spun around, flipped around, and landed upside down at the bottom near the train tracks. And the vehicle was completely destroyed. The roof was smashed down to the door locks in the back and crumbled kind of like a tin can. And
got squished.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know how many times, or a guesstimate of how many times the car flipped over? Or did it barrel roll?
I don't know exactly. I mean, there's been reenactments done and everything, but I'd guess that we would have had to do multiple rolls and maybe a single flip to where we ended up upside down. And there's, at this point, I have no recollection. I'm not coherent at all.
And you're in the back seat.
Yeah, in the back right seat. And then the driver and the shotgun passenger, the front passenger seat, were able to get themselves out of the vehicle and kind of make their way back up the hill to Iron Mountain. And luckily the car that was opposite us in the oncoming lane had called the police because they saw us lose control and flipped and went off into the ravine.
So did they call 911 immediately?
I believe so. I think that was the first call because there was an immediate response.
Which is very important when it comes to this story, because time is of the essence.
Yeah, it really is. I couldn't thank the police and fire and EMTs and all that enough. They acted and saw a horrible situation and, did the best that they could right away.
Which is incredible because, as teenagers, the day before, I'm running from a party, annoyed about their presence, and then the next day they're acting like absolute heroes, doing the part of the job that they wanted to sign up for when they were a kid. Right. I don't think any cop signs up to give MIPs. They sign up to be a hero, and that's exactly what they started to show that very next day.
Exactly. After the driver and the passenger were up at the road, the police have already been notified and everything, and the fire trucks and EMTs show up and they come down and assess the situation and decide that that they need to get my friend in the back left back left seat out first because they needed to kind of, take care of someone they could survive is kind of what they were thinking. And
so are you talking like they're making like wartime decisions, like where you go after the most likely to succeed?
Exactly. Yeah. And I was just in the worst shape you could imagine. So my friend in the back left, Justin, they came to him and were like, we got to get you out of the car. And he said, no, I'm not getting out until you get him out first. And they're like, no, we need to get you out. And he's like, no, get him out of the car. And so they got the jaws of life and cut the car in half pretty much. And, carefully somehow got me out of the vehicle. At this point, I had multiple injuries, punctured both my lungs, and my lungs filled with fluid and broke most of my ribs, and had other severe injuries. And so they resuscitated me, and I'm not sure if they pulled me up the hill first or if I was like somewhere near the train tracks. I don't know exactly how it happened.
But at some point you're not breathing, you have no vitals, so you're basically dead.
Yeah. No pulse, not breathing, and dead.
So if Justin doesn't put himself behind you in line, it's over.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, I don't have to tell you or anyone else that when you're not breathing, you've got minutes.
Right. Yeah. It's, I don't know the exact amount of time that I was out completely. They got Justin out. He had broken pelvis and broken ribs and shattered his jaw, and somehow toughed that out and was coherent enough to save my life pretty much at that point, and take the back seat in all that pain and kind of suffer through me getting out and them doing the thing to save my life and bring me back at that point. Yeah.
So the other two passengers that crawled to the top of the hill, what are their injuries?
The front passenger had a pretty good laceration across his chest, I think.
From the seatbelt?
Yeah, but was pretty safely protected, and they had bumps and bruises and scrapes.
But they were lucky to be in that part of the vehicle, based on just the crumple zone.
Right, exactly. They were extremely fortunate for what the damage that was done to the vehicle. So and I thank God they are. Like, we all survived.
Horrible. There's no winning in this situation for sure. So when they get you up there, and they've gone through the resuscitation and they've gotten some of your vitals back.
Yeah.
How do they transport you to the hospital?
So I think there was a short ambulance ride down the road because there was no space. I had to be in life flight, so they had.
And that's a wooded area.
Yeah.
I mean, there's trees all over the place.
Yeah, definitely no room to land a helicopter. So they moved me from the scene to, I'm not sure if it was the golf course nearby or the hunt club, somewhere around there. But
they found an open area to get you extracted.
And somehow got me transitioned and into the helicopter, got me stabilized or secured, and took off and headed towards OHSU hospital. And I have no memory at that point, no memory.
Nothing to this point.
Right.
Do you remember, do you remember anything about the spinning out part of it? Or so did your mind probably panicked and shut it off?
Yeah, I think
self-preservation.
Yeah, such traumatic injuries on multiple levels. I had in the helicopter. I woke up briefly for a quick second, and saw flashing lights and knew that something was going bad. So, but didn't really say anything, didn't do anything. And then like that, I was back out for a pretty long period again.
I wonder if that's anything like, people who free fall, whether they jump or they fall, and before they hit the ground, they pass out because it's just too overwhelming.
Sure.
It's like the brain is a very smart thing and complicated in the fact that it probably is like all these senses are happening, pain sensories and emotional sensories, and it's just like lights out. Like,
right.
Let's do this later.
Kind of protecting you from.
Yeah, and I'm no doctor, but I would think that maybe there's something there.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, more than especially at that age, more than my mind was capable of, processing and accepting or whatever.
Because the last thing you remember is you're supposed to be going to football practice, or
right.
You're supposed to go wakeboarding and some very, surface level stuff.
Yeah.
The things that are easy to process. This is not.
Right. Exactly. And so we get to the hospital, and they were unable to do surgery. I broke my back in two places, T7 and T8, and they were unable to do surgery on my spine right away because they had to drain the fluid from my lungs, put tubes in either side of me through my ribs, and had to be on a respirator for quite a few days, and had to do a couple surgeries to make sure I had no internal bleeding with my organs in my abdomen. And I also had a real bad hematoma, bruise on my face. So they weren't sure if I had a head injury because I wasn't coherent. So I couldn't, give them any signs of.
They couldn't test you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you were very lucky. The location that they took you as well. Yeah. OHSU stands for Oregon Health Sciences University,
right?
And it's a world-renowned medical facility.
It is.
And I just think that being that close to that place also probably played into saving your life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for such a horrible, unfortunate circumstance, things really couldn't have worked out better.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of help and luck and like a lot of things that did go my way, even though
they didn't.
They didn't.
And I think that that's hard for a lot of people to consume that idea. Mm-hmm. When you say I'm lucky, the glass half empty person is going to say, no, you're so unlucky.
Right.
And you're like, well, if you look at the bigger picture,
Right.
if I'm unlucky, I fall into the ravine and I die.
Exactly.
The luck is in the fact that you had Heroes Incorporated, I guess is what I would call it. You know, if everyone from the police to your own friends to the medical professionals, and what we'll find is friends and family and rehabilitation further on into your story.
Sure. Yeah.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by Stafford Hills Club. If you haven't been here, you're missing out. It's where I work out and also where I work in high-end equipment in the gym. Of course, state-of-the-art facilities, not just the saltwater pool that's heated, also indoor and outdoor tennis, and the classes are also truly amazing. If you want to check it out, StaffordHills.com to see all the amenities, and if it's up your alley like it is mine, come hang out with me, and I'll get you 50% off of your initiation fee. Just send me a comment right here on this video, and we will dial you in, or just send me a personal message, and you can come down and grind it out. See if we can't change our lives in the new year. And of course, sauna, steam room, the whole thing make me feel like some sort of special person there with a hot towel around my neck. StaffordHills.com.
It's, like you said, it took a whole bunch of people coming together. The doctors in the hospital, assessed the situation as best they could. And like I said, they couldn't operate on my spine or do anything with my back for a few days until I was more stable in the intensive care unit. And they got me breathing with a machine for a little while, and had a consistent, steady heart rate. Like, my body's starting to at least function a little bit on its own.
A little response there.
Yeah, even though I couldn't breathe necessarily on my own or anything yet. And then they finally do have a chance to operate on my spine, and they end up putting two 14-inch titanium rods on either side of my spine, and then clamps on every vertebrae, and a whole bunch of hardware that still remains in my body. And I mean, the result of the spinal surgery, I'm still paralyzed to this day. Not able to walk, but luckily had, trouble moving my arms at first, but regained strength in my upper body pretty quick, and but unable to walk,
So, and I want to get into kind of you coming to the realization that this is the reality of things, or at least the diagnosis that you're being given in the time. Just to walk it back a little bit. We talked about community support and being from a special place and a tight-knit place, and all those things come into play for you as well, because like I said, you had this infectious smile, and you had a way of making people feel special. Even if you didn't realize you were doing it, you did. And that showed up in droves when it came to the support that came out of the woodwork for you. Earlier we talked about how I basically got saved from this situation by those two girls who took me home to go check in with my parents. Well, when I went to go do that, they basically just wanted to make sure I was alive, and then they had to go to work or whatever. And so they just kind of shooed me back into the ether. And so I went with one of those girls over to her house directly after I left you guys. And so I was there. It had to have been 45 minutes. It couldn't have been an hour. Maybe it was an hour at the very most. But to me, in my mind, all these years, it's like 5 minutes from leaving you guys to being at her house. And we were trying to figure out the plan and what we're going to do, because now you guys are off doing something, and no one's got a phone. I can't get back a hold of you guys. Like, in my mind, my parents just ruined my afternoon.
Sure.
And it's just minutes later that she walks in, like her mom calls her inside, and she walks inside, and I'm playing with a giant yoga ball with her little brother, and she turns around and she walks back out the door and her face is green. And I'm all, what? And I just got like that wave, that heat wave that like it's hot and then cold. And I just thought to myself, oh, something is wrong. And the words came out of her mouth and she goes, there's been an accident. And I was like, for what kind of an accident? And she says what happened, or what we know, which is such shoddy details at that time, that there's been an accident and we don't know if they're going to make it. And then we found out as the moments go on that you're the one we're talking about and Justin's the one we're talking about because you guys had the worst injuries straight away. I just fell apart. You know, like I remember just thinking like panic and frightened that, you know, we were just right there. I was worried for you. I was worried about your parents, you know, like immediately all that stuff's just flowing through my mind. And we just wasted no time. Where are they? And then we just drove up there. And I, like so many other people, I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if we'd ever get to see you, but I just wanted you to know that we were there, you know, and that was so many people who wanted you to know that we were there, you know, because we're not doctors. We can't save you ourselves, but all we can do is support. And I remember walking into that waiting room and it was like mattress land, you know, it was like blankets and pillows. And like people were like, I'm not leaving here until I get some answers, until I can see Nick. And, you know, that, and I know that you've had time to process that, but, you don't get to see that crowd for some time, but when you look back on it, what does that mean to you?
I mean, it means the world. It's the reason that I'm still here, you know, other than the immediate help I had from the responders, all of the support. I didn't wake up, you know, for several days, and I woke up one time in the operating room briefly, and that was just a scary situation. I immediately, for some reason, looked over and I was like, Mason, it's going to be okay, thinking that he was there with me. And he obviously wasn't. And then I went back out. But then to answer your question about the other other supporters, friends and family, the next time I kind of came to and woke up was moving from one room to the next, or one procedure to the next, or something. And I got to see people lined up in the hallway, you know, people that I knew, close friends, close family, like friends' parents that I hadn't seen, like aunts, uncles. And I was like thinking to myself, like, this, it's starting to click that this is something really serious, like on my side, because I hadn't processed where I was at or what's going on, but I did feel all the love and support. Like people were there for me, and like it was something important, and they, you know, I could just tell it was a lot of people at that point. And there's no better feeling than knowing you're going through something and you have people at your back, and like people to be there to support you. And I, you know, saw family first when I finally came to a couple days after that point. Saw my mom and dad and brother.
And they must have been going through it. I mean, you're not waking up for days. And have you had a chance to ever ask them what was going through their mind, as they don't know if you're going to wake up or not?
I mean, a little bit to an extent,
And it's got to be hard to breach that subject.
Yeah. It's something that I couldn't imagine. As difficult as my position was, I wouldn't want to be on the other side. I wouldn't want to be ever seeing, my family members, my mom, my dad, my brother in my position. So I know it's got to be a difficult spot.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by Stafford Hills Club. And if you haven't been here, you're definitely missing out. Just voted the #1 health and wellness center in the Portland area, and it shows. You got that saltwater heated pool out there steaming in the morning when you get here. And on top of that, a freshly remodeled workout facility and brand new rooms with classes of all kinds for all types of people, spin classes, you name it. They've got it for you here at Stafford Hills. Hit them up right now, staffordhills.com, to see everything they offer. And really cool right now, you send me a message, DM me, tell me that you're interested. I'll get you 50% off your initiation at Stafford Hills, where they have earned the awards. Let me promise you that they have changed my existence in the last few months. So if you want to make some changes in the new year, let's do it. staffordhills.com. Yeah, and I mean, I'm a dad 3 times over, and one of my kids at one point had a thing where she almost drowned in a pool, and so when I think about your parents in that moment, it just takes me back to that idea and that feeling, and how you would give everything in the world just to switch places and let that be them or let that be me instead of you or your own child. And so just to see you wake up, even though they'd heard so much more bad news, that must have been a serious relief, because if you're up,
right,
then there's hope.
Right. I'm sure that, like you said, it must have been a relief, and any news is good news, or not any news, but the news that I was coherent and making progress, even if it was just the smallest amount.
Because were they worrying about your brain because of not just the laceration, but the lack of oxygen?
Yeah.
Was that something that was on the table that you might, because obviously you're Nick, but there's a chance that you could have woken up and had brain damage on a level to where you can't communicate.
Yeah. It could have been a horrible situation. They, didn't have any, like I said, awareness, because I wasn't able to respond for so long. And like you said, the duration of time that took place, where I, wasn't breathing and not getting oxygen to my brain, it was definitely a question. I am extremely lucky to not have any brain damage, any type of effects on, my mental health or any, I just couldn't imagine if, both for myself and for my family, like we were saying, if I wasn't able to finally speak to them and say, give them a thumbs up and be like, it's okay. Like, we're going to move forward from here.
So you had that turtle shell type thing wrapped around your body, kind of like holding you together, or, keeping your injuries from being worse.
Right.
What goes on with that? And at what point, and I know it's kind of a combo question, but at what point are you notified that you're paralyzed?
Sure. So the hard shell that was holding me all together and keeping me from moving pretty much too much, they'd have to open it up to let some incisions breathe and get some air to my torso and abdomen. And it was pretty tight and, constricting. And I remember waking up one time when it was opened, and the nurse or doctor had left the room, and they opened it up, and I was looking down, and I saw like the staples in my stomach and incision kind of pretty raw still, and I gasped, kind of like inhaling and then exhaling, and let out. And when I let out, like I saw myself down below and was kind of drifting away, and felt like an out-of-body experience, kind of. I don't know what else to...
Do you think there's, I mean, you're here now, but do you think there's a chance you're dying in that moment?
That's the only explanation that I would have. I feel like I was looking down at myself. This all happened like extremely rapidly, and I saw my dad standing behind me, and he was pretty broken up, like looking down at me.
Can imagine.
At his son, and I thought to myself in that split second, I was like, no, not now. Like, this isn't it. And I kind of blinked my eyes and opened my eyes up, and then like took a big breath of air and realized that I was, back in the position I was in, and kind of started to, again, add another puzzle piece to what's going on before I realize, put it all together and kind of accept the severity of the situation and all the injuries and all that. And
I kind of feel like the athlete in you is in there a little bit, because to me in the story, that's kind of like the moment where you decide you're going to fight. Yeah. And not that you weren't going to fight before, but you're confused before, you're barely coherent. And in this moment, you've got your dad there, you see how hurt he is, and you say, I'm not going to let this isn't going to be what defines me. This isn't my story. And I think that maybe the way that, you were always known to compete, there's a little piece of that in there. It's also a warrior type mentality, but it's bred into you in sports and with the way that you're raised.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of the mentality, never give up. And, just if you are put in a corner, you better fight your way out, kind of thing.
That's right.
And got to a point to where I was transferred out of the intensive care unit shortly thereafter, and into recovery. And I'm in recovery, and I think my mom was in the room with me at the time. And the doctor came in, and he had been making his rounds and checking on me for a couple days at this point. But I didn't remember who was who coming in and all that.
Yeah.
He said, he's talking to me after checking my vitals and everything. And he's like, asked me if I had any questions or something, and I was like, yeah, how long is this going to take? I got to get to football practice. Like, still not processing that days had gone by, and, time just wasn't even registering in my thought process at all. And he was like, no, like, there's no football practice today or ever. Like, you're paralyzed, you broke your back, like you have severe injuries, you've got a long road ahead of you. And I was just kind of like, no, this can't,
So did you accept now you didn't accept that this is the end of the road and I'm going to have these limitations, but are you soaking it in at this time, or are you in denial, or where are you at?
I kind of a combination, I suppose, like looking back at it, it set in, like I realized like this is, a doctor's telling me this is what it is. But like at the same time being kind of a form of denial and not accepting, being, disabled or having my regular life affected. I kind of just, I guess it pretty much is denial. I was like,
And that's self-preservation too. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. I mean, before you quote unquote fall asleep, you're an athlete, and you still are in so many ways, and we'll get to that. But it's your identity before the accident is, everyone knew you as an athlete, as a fun-loving guy and a happy guy, but also an athlete. So I think that anybody who, has a sense of who they are, is going to be in a little bit of denial of it if it's not for anything other than self-preservation.
Yeah. I went through, a whole bunch of thoughts, obviously, rapidly, but I honestly can say from the start, because of all the support that I had and all the friends and people that came and, come in to see me or like leave me gifts or flowers or whatever it was, like every little bit and piece was something that helped me and motivated me. I didn't really feel like, oh, this is why me? Why is this happening to me? It was kind of more like, okay, this has happened to me. Let's move forward. Let's make the best of what we can. And that, kind of leads into a whole bunch of rehabilitation sessions, inpatient, that from the recovery unit, they moved me to another hospital to inpatient rehabilitation for about a month at Good Samaritan Hospital. And there I wanted to learn and do as much as I could, as quick as I could. And then I was just ready to get out.
So a question for you, and this is from the outside looking in, you see in the movies with these rehab centers where the amount of frustration that the patient is going through is, you're trying to do these exercises or these things to strengthen your body, and you're used to one thing, and now you're dealing with this new thing. And with just a very small amount of time comes weakness to your muscles and how quickly they lose what they had. Was this process, and I know that you had the mindset of, I'm not going to let this conquer me, but how often was it for you that it just was too much? Or did you have to, were there days where it's like, just leave me alone? Or how did you handle it, and how did you address it?
I mean, it was a lot. I definitely had times where didn't really want to do things or didn't want to see people or wanted time to myself. But it was kind of a situation where learning how things had to be at that point. A lot of the physical changes and routine changes and things I had to accept with that, those were pretty difficult to accept, and like how much more time everything takes. Like something that took 10 minutes, to get out of bed and brush your teeth and do the things like people don't think about all the time, like just swinging your legs, to the side of the bed and standing up, walking to the bathroom, brushing your teeth, hopping in the shower, like another 10 minutes there. And then, or you can be out the door in less than half an hour. And then all of a sudden it's like your daily routine can take hours. It's, just things that people don't think about sometimes. were the hardest things to accept at the beginning, and, you know, still frustrating sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so much of your body works based on other parts of your body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a total side note, but I broke my tailbone over the summer, and every time you'd try to rotate, you don't think that you're squeezing like your booty cheeks
Right.
to move your body around. And so you're just constantly in pain, and you're like, wait, but I didn't hurt that part of me. Yeah. And so all of it's interconnected. So when someone's like, oh, he can't walk, they're also not thinking about that. It's the other little things that, even from shifting or whatever, that you had to learn how to do in a different way.
That's exactly right on. You know, I don't even think about it now just because it's been so long, but, you know, just moving, having limited mobility and strength in my core, I have to do everything I do. I have to kind of balance myself differently, or, you know, be aware of how I'm positioning or whatever, and just make all these adjustments that take time to learn how to figure out the right way to do it. And it's definitely a process. You know, I have still to this day, I have pretty severe leg spasms where my legs will just shake and kick. And I have absolutely no control over it. And they can be violent at times without, you know, maintaining the right medication. Like, it's a medication that just helps the spasticity and everything, but it doesn't control it completely. But even doctors are like, it's a little odd, the level of the amount of spasms that I have. And so I've kind of learned to cope with these movements and frustrating things by, you know, kind of without thinking, I'm using pressure points or twisting my body so that parts of muscles that you wouldn't think of are kind of quenching or holding on to other parts to make life easier and be able to function at a better rate and a better way.
And you worked tirelessly to get yourself back in a position to where you could live your life. I'm seeing you here. You're looking jacked. You got like big old biceps. Is that something that you make a point to do, or is that something that is a result of you moving yourself around, or is it a combination?
I think it is a combination. I try and be healthy and have a good diet, and, you know, work out and exercise. I should do it a lot more, but I want to stay focused and staying the healthiest and, you know, the youngest I can, just like everybody else. And you know, I'm interested in getting in every day into different routines or different things to incorporate in my routine to, you know, better my overall wellness and fitness. And, but it's a huge, part of my life in the past, you know, almost 30 years now, have been trying things that most people wouldn't try or wouldn't do. And, you know, trying to do whatever sports or participate in different activities and things that I can to keep physically fit and as mentally healthy as well, and keep young. And I basically, you know, things like golf, try skiing, you know, inner tubing behind a boat, even.
That's great.
Things that are just fun. Snowmobiling, things where you put yourself in a situation where you might not be able to do it if you know, just think about what the normal, like, everyday, I don't know, this is hard, you know, I don't want to push myself. But then when people say, "Oh, you can't," or "You shouldn't do that," that fuels me. That lights the fire, and I'm like, no.
And that's a special part of you. I remember, and it's just a mechanical thing, but I remember being in awe of your car. You know, you found a way to drive a car where the gas and the brake were up at your hands so that you can function perfectly. I mean, when you came to do the interview today, you rolled up in a pretty sweet whip and it's you who's driving, you know, and you do all these things yourself. And I noticed that from the very beginning with you. And I think it's a good inspiration to other people who both have had to deal with being in a wheelchair and the ones who have not, you know, because much smaller limitations. So many of us are like, well, this is why I can't.
Yeah.
And we're so fast to say, no, not me, you know, and I think that you're an inspiration on that level that, you know, and your case is extreme compared to other people. I mean, your story is probably, it's the top 3 stories in the history of our city in the time I've been there, which is a long, long time. Yeah. So much, in fact, that when I said I was going to interview you, my dad just out of nowhere mumbled the make and model of the car you guys were in. I mean, it's been 27 years or whatever. That's insane. So I think that you overcame so much. I mean, we haven't even touched on some of the stuff you did, like when you rehabilitated so much that you were actually able to return to school at one point, to quite a bit of fanfare, is what I would guess, if it's anything like the hospital was when you finally got to return, because you get to see everyone else who was, even if they're just kind of like a connection friend or whatever, you could see how much the whole community was rallying behind you.
Right. That was an amazing feeling. I was obviously, nervous and,
anxiety builds over a year, right?
Yeah. A year of time doing the rehabilitation and outpatient rehabilitation and being tutored, homeschooled, and then going back for my senior year.
Were you hungry for that as you were, because you get cabin fever a little bit, homeschooling, no one wants to do that.
Right.
Luckily, you'd already been to public school, so you weren't weird.
Right.
And I've met a couple. I'm actually friends with some who were homeschooled, and I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But you had a short stint, but you were ready to get back with the other kids.
Yeah. I was eager to, get back to the lifestyle that I remembered, or, as close to it as possible. And when I got back to the school, I saw, like you said, so many different types of people, and everybody was so supportive and happy to see me coming back. And so kind of fed off the energy of each other, kind of thing. Like, all these people motivated me to keep trying harder and keep bettering myself, because I saw that other people were, affected by the situation in a positive way. And it made me want to kind of mold my life with a mentality that I'm here for a reason, and I need to give back for all the support that I've received, and extend a helping hand every time I can, and make each day the best I can to better people around me. And I know that sounds like kind of a interesting or different outlook, but I feel like if I can improve 1 or 2 people's day every day, and like kind of give a little bit of the support that every person offered to me at one time, then I can go to sleep and feel better about the balance of everything.
And that's why you are who you are, and that's why those people filled up that waiting room. That's why they're waiting for you when you got back. That's why they built you a throne to watch football games. And, we shared our high schools shared a field back then. Cause remember, we're the B team. So it was still your name on the stadium, but then we would come and borrow it when you guys played away games. Right. So your throne would sit there on the sideline at our games too. It wasn't like they took it away. Mm-hmm. So you were always on the forefront of the minds of the whole community, not just Lake Oswego High School, but the other side of the lake and beyond. But I think, when you say you try and change, people's perspective or help people, I think that the example that you're setting by pushing forward and not settling. And, I think I said when we met before that, there's a good chance that I'd just become a world-class Netflixer. And that was the last time you ever saw me. But you've chosen to do other things. Yeah. And if a friend or a colleague or even a perfect stranger were to get in an accident like yours and they came to me in distress, I would be like, there's one guy you should call, or there's one guy you should talk to, because that's the guy. That's the way you've got to get your mind going here if you want to come out on the other end of this, because not every story, ends with somebody in your position where you're living your life, you're thriving, you're trying all these sports. I mean, you're naming sports that a lot of people, they're like, oh, I can't play that. Okay. Well, I think we've just set the example that you can, but you got to put your mind to it. And we talk on this show all the time about how quickly people, when you talk about something that's scary or an aggressive feat or seems unobtainable, people's initial reaction is, I can't do that, or I'm not doing that. Like even if it's a fitness thing, oh, no. And it's a self-preservation, and it's also a fear of failure. So we've talked a lot about what you've been through, all the traumatic experience, and then the long and difficult road to recovery and rehabilitation, which I would go out on a limb and guess that that's something that you'll always be kind of working on. It's like continued education, kind of like how a doctor or a dentist is never done learning and working on the process.
Definitely. Everything's constantly changing and getting better. Something that you learn 5, 10, 20 years ago, every so often, every few years, something better or something more efficient, something adapts in a way that, you got to kind of try and keep up with. I would, with my everyday life right now, I'm kind of in a situation where I am looking for more things and newer things to touch on things that I haven't thought of, for 25, 30 years, and see like, okay, this was something that doctors or people talked about, like what's going on with it now, to try and maybe not, not necessarily make me walk, but to advance my core strength or mobility or some type of benefit to better the future, kind of thing.
And I think there's got to be technology over time that'll help with at least parts of that. I mean, hey, maybe it's robot legs.
Right.
You never know. I mean, and even just stuff with inside the human body. I mean, now we're cloning a dire wolf. They've got to be able to do something like where they can work on a spinal cord or anything along those lines. People much smarter than me with deeper thought. But I just think that anytime we're advancing in a medical world and in a technological world, that there's always hope for advancements that would ease your day to day. Right.
And, I'm trying to keep up on that, like I said, and like figure out if there's something I can do with it. There's also like exoskeleton, if it's nothing internally or a rehabilitation thing. There's things that, it's now the future where you can use robotics kind of to assist with everyday life tasks and whatnot. So
I think that's great. I mean, even if it's as simple as the stuff that help, like you were talking now, you have a longer process of getting out of bed and getting ready and getting going, and just to ease that operation for you, so you don't have to take an hour when you should only have to take 15 minutes, or
Right.
or a process of and you've gotten so good at these things over time, but just getting into a shower or whatever to the layman is like, well, that's daunting. Like there's got to be a way to ease all those transitions for you so that you can focus on the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for any type of, assistance that to make life easier on myself. And I'm sure, people that surround me and support me still to this day are wanting to see the same types of things, and wanting to see, my life get easier, not harder, kind of thing. There's, a lot of everyday tasks that I face that affect the people around me, just because, maybe I need help with this with my wheelchair. Maybe I need, some type of assistance or something, reaching something that I can't, just little things really, but
Stuff that you'd like to be able to just do yourself.
exactly.
Because, the independent person in you doesn't want to seek out help for something that's as like easy as, I want peanut butter and it's a shelf too high.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So
You deserve accessible peanut butter.
I love peanut butter.
It's pretty delicious. I have told you this before, but I wanted to say it on the record. I'm so happy to know you. I think you're an inspiration. And I think that people can draw a lot from your story and from how you refuse to quit, and how you've, time is a thief, in general. And I always saying that because time has flown by so much that I can't even imagine in my mind that we're the age that we are having this conversation, because I'm still a teenager sitting in the waiting room at OHSU waiting for them to tell me it's going to be okay. And you fought, bro. You fought through, and you did things that I'm sure, no one would say it publicly, but people would doubt that you can just rise up and live an independent life and have relationships and build bonds and do the things that, the initial fear when this type of stuff happens to someone is that their own mind will get in the way and will sabotage. And you've done a good job of not allowing that to take over, because that's just a natural thing in people, is adversity can make people crumble. And you did not do that.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for saying that.
Of course. And if you're talking to the next person who wakes up in that hospital bed and gets told they're never going to football practice again, and they're looking for, and now granted, your words in those first moments, it's hard for them to hear that. But as they find their center, what are your words to somebody who's at the beginning or an early part of this journey?
Stay focused and don't give up. Never accept that people may look at you different or treat you different or anything else. Those things may happen, but don't let it bother you. Take everything as motivation and drive to move forward, and have all the people around you, try and impress upon them how strong you are, and make them understand that no matter how difficult a situation may be, that you can find a way to make it better, and you can find a way to survive and get into any type of lifestyle or anything you want to get into.
And I think something I would say to piggyback on that is anybody who wants to judge or put you into a corner, that's a reflection on them and not on you. And the way that you carry yourself somebody mumbling something or somebody having a thought in their head that you're this and you're not that, that's a reflection on them. And they're looking at a surface level situation. You're a much more complicated book than that. And so is everybody. And anytime somebody acts like that, or where they're going to look down on someone or consider it a burden on them because that's a reflection on them. And all you can do is be the light that you are. And you've done a great job of that, man. You really have. And I can't wait. And one thing that this show has done is it's brought me back into your life, which, I moved away for a long time, and life gets on, and you lived in Arizona, and it gets to going, and just glad that you're back. And I want to stay in contact with you and watch you grow into the next chapter. And I want to go play some of this golf, or let's go inner tubing, or do whatever it is. I'm down to party, and you're probably going to beat me at all of it.
No,
just like the old days.
I'll try.
Yeah, I know. And that's the fighter that you are. And I just want to thank you for coming on. And it's a story of someone who refused to quit. And I'm glad that you didn't just lay there and die on those train tracks, man. I don't think this world can last without you. So,
I appreciate that.
So thanks for coming on, bud. And we'll be in touch. It's the Fit for Radio podcast. All the love. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Drew.
Cheers. In closing, Nick wanted to acknowledge and thank the people that played a part in his recovery. So many people that it's hard to list them all here, but first and foremost to his mom, his dad, and his stepdad. They made the world a more acceptable and livable place for him. His brothers and family provided endless support, and friends in the community took many hours out of their time and effort to make his life more comfortable. So to all of them, thank you so much. Nick is eternally grateful.